Welcome, everybody. We're going to slowly get started on this fourth webinar of the Coffee and STEAM series. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Cristina Martin. I will be moderating the session from now on. I represent 𝗲𝗲 Brussels, which is one of the partner organizations of the 𝗕𝗏𝗵 project, and we are very happy to be here. This session is recorded so that you know that you can keep your camera off and your mic silenced in case you don't want that to be appeared. This session will be later uploaded in our YouTube channel as well as our virtual making space, which is one of the libraries that we have for the 𝗕𝗏𝗵 project, and it can be disseminated afterwards for everybody that wishes to access this webinar and the rest of the webinars that we have presented in the past. So welcome to this fourth session. A little introduction of the 𝗕𝗏𝗵 project and why we're doing this. The 𝗕𝗏𝗵 project is a Horizon Europe initiative that aims to initiate change about the persistent gender inequalities in STEM and STEAM careers. We have a STEAM approach as well. And we work with the target groups of young girls coming from 14, 18 years old at the same time as researchers and people starting their careers and developing their careers. And we have different activities that are being implemented in the 19 countries by the 21 partner organizations that we are within the 𝗕𝗏𝗵 consortium. We have, as I said, different activities. Some of them are more related to mentoring. Also, we have some workshops and sessions for teenagers directly. And one of these activities is promoting networking and promoting knowledge sharing and raising awareness, which is why we're hosting this webinar within the context of the Belgium National Inspiration Hub. Each country has an inspiration hub, which is an organization and networking event and a working online platform to allow to connect other students, researchers, professionals, and organizations with like-minded individuals and organizations. And we host these kind of webinars within this context. The members of the National Inspiration Hub have a say as well on the topics, and they are kindly invited as well as guest speakers. And if you want to join, just fill out the form and we'll share with you the invitation shortly. Why are we having this conversation specifically? So today we're having kind of a more informal conversation on the intersection between gender and migration. But last time, 2 weeks ago, we hosted a webinar on gender and migration barriers and opportunities, where we had Dr. 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗏, researcher Miriam Bibol and researcher Maria Towns presenting on the specific barriers, specific opportunities, best practices, and their research specifically on the sense of belonging, as well as mentoring programs for adolescents and teenagers, and the specific barriers that migrant students and especially researchers find in their careers when pursuing their professional development in STEM. So these are some of the challenges that were presented by Dr. 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗏 in our previous presentation. As you see, they're structural and policy level, more related to the status that you hold. There's cultural, social, personal challenges, and more related to cultural adjustments, isolation, being far away from family, mental health pressure, and everything related to intersectionality, which is something that applies not only to direct migrants, but also people from migrant backgrounds or diverse backgrounds. And the same with challenges on the academic level. So we're talking about unequal access to equipment, everything related to problems with funding and long-term funding, publication hurdles, reviewer biases and biases when applying for funding, difficulties to attend conferences due to visa hurdles, networking gaps, etc. So we wanted to have a more informal conversation. So now that we have presented these kind of challenges and barriers on the more evidence-based vision, we want to have a conversation on how that affects researchers in the day-to-day. If they face it directly, how we can avoid it, how we can surmount it. If it's something that doesn't apply to different people, or doesn't apply to you, that is something also that we want to have the conversation today. So I would like to introduce you to our panel. Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to kindly ask you to introduce yourself very quickly. And if we can start with 𝗕𝗲𝗶𝗂𝗃. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Christina. Yes, my name is 𝗕𝗲𝗶𝗂𝗃. I was born and raised in Iran. I did my PhD, first my bachelor and master in computer software engineering in Iran. I did my PhD in applied engineering at University of Antwerp with a focus on computer engineering and system engineering. And my PhD was about self-adaptation in digital twins with real-time requirements. If I can have time, I go a bit on the background of I've been in Belgium since 2020, 1 month before COVID. One step back, how I ended up in Belgium. I applied first for a PhD in Canada and also Poland, where in Canada I got half funding, which I found it not sufficient for living there. And then for Poland, my visa got rejected, although I registered at university and paid the tuition fee and so on. At that time, my sister was living in Belgium, so I decided to apply for a PhD in Belgium. I was not aware of kind of full funding and so on in Europe. So I confirmed with my PhD supervisor at that time at VUB, Vrije Universiteit Brussels, to come to Belgium self-funding. And then I came in Belgium. I started my PhD in February 2020 at VUB. Then 1 month later, as all of us know, COVID came. So we all locked down. And then I did teleworking and so on. And then one day my supervisor told me that he's going to resign because of blah, blah. And then my PhD left in the air. So I started from scratch. I applied again and again, and I ended up with a PhD at University of Antwerp with an amazing supervisor indeed. It was an opportunity and the nice people in the group. I finished my PhD last year in 2020. And then I did my postdoc there with the same group and just finished last month. Beside my work, in Belgium, voluntarily, I'm board member of BeWiSe, Belgian Women in Science, where we support the position of women in science, both in public and private sector, which is something for me also with my personal perspective, this is important. And there we try to improve communication among women in Belgian and European scientific community. And more than this, why I contribute to this, let's say, webinar is I wanted to contribute because I'm a migrant researcher and my story could help others at the beginning or middle of their journey, let's say. And then I want to share my experiences as well. It became a bit long. Sorry.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much. And thank you for letting us know a little bit more about you, also both as a researcher and as a person. Just a little note on BeWiSe, we are very thankful for having this kind of collaboration with BeWiSe. If somebody is interested in checking out their work, they do an amazing work here in Belgium, promoting STEM careers in general, and they have a lot of work on mentoring as well. We have a webinar on mentoring recorded within our channels, where 𝗕𝗲𝗶𝗂𝗃 also had the opportunity to share a little bit more on their work. So thank you very much, 𝗕𝗲𝗃, for being here and also for your work on BeWiSe. Thank you very much. Next up, Hussein, if I can hear from you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Christina. So I'm a bit of the odd one out, I think, in the sense that I have a migration background, but I have the chance of also having a European nationality. So I was born in Belgium, but when I was, I think, between 2 and 3, we left to Lebanon because I'm Lebanese, my father is Lebanese, and I lived all of my childhood and my teenage years there. And then, for a variety of reasons, namely that the academic environment and also my kind of education background is more in line with European culture. And also because I ultimately wanted to do a PhD, I moved back, quote unquote, to Belgium, but I moved on my own. So essentially, until 18, the only thing that I had known was Lebanon. And then I came here, and then basically I studied biology, then molecular biology in my master's, and then I started the PhD in 2016 in immunology, and ever since I've been an immunologist focusing on the immune system in the intestine, both in mouse models, but also in human tissue. And everybody has a funny story about COVID. I've always wanted to be an academic. Why is something that you might want to question. And in 2020, I essentially finished my PhD, and then ideally I would have had to move. Unfortunately, with COVID and also with the situation in Lebanon, this was not possible because both my parents were in Lebanon. I'm an only child, so that means that if there's anything going on with my parents, I'm their only family essentially. And so I had to take in my mother. And so I've had to stay in Belgium ever since. And then I accepted a position as a postdoc in KU Leuven, which is kind of the best thing you can do when you cannot go abroad. You cross the linguistic border, because I started in the French-speaking community and now I'm in the Dutch-speaking community. And essentially this contract ended a couple of months ago, and now I'm looking to continue my career probably in France, continuing on intestinal immunology. So I've been in Belgium for a while. Now it's kind of nearing the same amount of time in Lebanon and in Belgium. And the particularity of my profile is that when you meet me, apart from my weird name, you would never guess that I have a migration background. I'm very well integrated. And also I have all the codes and the language and everything to kind of fit in. And yet, it is also one of the reasons why I want to contribute to this conversation. It's not because you don't see this background, that it's not there and that it doesn't affect us. And so I feel like in my particular position, I often kind of use my position to speak about a variety of things. I've started a society for young immunologists, because on top of gender, migration backgrounds, I think just being an early career researcher is already prejudice enough in this career. So I've set this up, and whenever I get the opportunity to speak about these things, I try to do it. So thank you, Christina, for the invitation. I'm also newly a member of BeWiSe, which I think does wonderful things. So yeah, this is basically my background.
Thank you so much, Hind. And that's exactly why we wanted to have you as well in this webinar. So thank you very much for joining us. We are the ones that appreciate your presence here. And I think also your perspective as someone with everything that you have explained in your background will be very valuable in this conversation. So thank you very much. Next up, 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗂𝗁𝗂. Thank you very much for joining. And if you can explain a little bit more on yourself as well.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. So my name is 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗂𝗁𝗂, and I am coming from Sri Lanka, and I'm currently living in Helsinki, Finland. So to give you my story, so I did my bachelor's in Sri Lanka, and then I always wanted to do my master's abroad elsewhere, preferably in one of the EU countries. And then back then, my boyfriend, now my husband, he was living in a city called Oulu. He was doing his master's there. And then I was also applying for master's here in Helsinki and Oulu. Then in Helsinki, I got the position, but then I didn't land on any scholarships. So it was difficult for me to fund it on my own. And in Oulu, I got a 75% scholarship. So it was comparatively quite easy to go there and do my master's there. And to give you my COVID story, in Sri Lanka, we don't have an embassy of Finland or a visa handling office in Sri Lanka. And then I had to visit India to get my visa for Finland. But then I had my tickets booked, I had my appointment booked, I had everything I needed, documents and everything. And I was about to go there, like, imagine next week. But then this Friday, the borders closed, so I couldn't go there. And then I had to do my studies online. Luckily, they provided us with the support, and they were okay with us studying from elsewhere, even though it's online. So, and in 2021, I was able to come here, and then I did my master's and finished it by 2022. Then I had a bit of a gap in between my PhD and my master's. Currently, I'm doing my PhD, and I started in 2024. And currently, I'm in my second year, and I'm investigating young people's well-being in digital era. I'm looking into their personality, digital skills, and the exposure to online risk and these interconnections. And yeah, and I wanted to contribute to this dialogue. I think it's really important as international talent that we speak about the barriers, challenges, and the support and everything that's out there that would strive us to gain more and provide more to the society. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, 𝗕𝗃𝗃, for being here and also sharing your story and everything that happened with you, with all the visas and everything and the embassy, which is something that I think there are more people in the world that can relate to that. And then last but not least, Cristina Bustos, if you could present yourself.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and speaking about my story and hear about other paths. So I am Cristina. I study computer science and I am from Colombia, South America. So my history is like I studied computer science in Colombia, and I did my bachelor there in a public university because also I'm from a middle class family. So in my case, the funding was really an issue as well. So I entered to the public university. So I studied my computer science during my time in Colombia, and then I always wanted to do a master's abroad, and I was focused on a specifically topic in computer science that is computer vision. That for the people that don't know, computer vision is like is to analyze images or videos and get all the artificial intelligence in this kind of data, like videos and, for example, recognize the face or counting objects or generate images like what you see right now in ChatGPT or something like this. So I want to study in this area. But in Colombia, there wasn't a master in this area, so I just had to look abroad. And I started to look, for example, in the United States, and it was ridiculous and like very, very expensive. Like for me, it's like, no way, I cannot pay that a lot of money. So I started to look in Europe. Also, I started to look in Germany, Spain, but at the end, I moved to Spain because the master there was 1 year, and so I got a loan, and also I worked for a couple of years as a software developer. So I get the money to go abroad to Spain. And then in Spain, I moved to Barcelona, and then I made the master's and then I started to work as a researcher. But when I finished my master, it was very difficult to find a job in a company because I know European. So but luckily, fortunately, I get a job in research, and they get the work permission very quick because it's like a organization. It's like a research like. So I get that permission, and then I decided to start a PhD in Barcelona in the university that I was working as a research. So I made a PhD. I recently graduated from my PhD in computer vision, and I'm mostly focused in urban analysis. So yes, that's my history, and I want to contribute this because during all my career, I noticed that if we don't know the history from other women or from other immigrant people, then you feel like alone. And for me, it's like a motivation to see, for example, my advisor in my PhD, she's a woman in computer vision. So for me, it was like very motivating to see that there is another woman to advise me. And also during my PhD, I participate in workshops that Latin people in computer vision or women in computer vision. So that was very nice for me to hear that I'm not the only one struggling with my research career, my background also, because my family didn't know what is a PhD. So for them, they say, why is this? Why are you doing this? So yeah, it's a story that I like to share with you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Christina, for joining us. You touched upon a couple of topics that we're going to cover in this webinar, and I can absolutely relate to the fact of explaining to parents what we do and our career and everything. So, but thank you very much for joining today and giving us a little bit on your side of your story. So how these webinars are going to go from now on is that I will be asking some questions related to some of the topics that we have already seen within your introductions. But people from the audience, if you have any question and any doubt or any curiosity that you would like to see covered during this webinar, we're keeping an eye on the chat. So please post your questions in the chat, either directly as a comment or in the QA section, and we'll be posting the questions either during the webinar or at the end of the webinar. So please do go ahead and contribute to the conversation. If you have any anecdote that you would like to share with the public, we are also keeping an eye on the chat. So don't hesitate to connect with other people that are attending today. So one of the first things that I wanted to cover is the sense of belonging, actually. So exactly what Christina was already mentioning about how feeling like you belong in these kind of careers is something that is not only relevant, but it's also a topic that we have seen within the 𝗕𝗏 project. We have discussed this in previous webinars. It is something that has come up in previous conversations, and it is something that we have also seen in our previous research and needs analysis. So I wanted to continue the conversation. I will start with you, Christina, now that you have mentioned it, about this sense of belonging. How is it now? Do you feel like you belong now after everything that you have seen with your advisor and how your career has developed?
I mean, in this moment, it's like you have to believe yourself, because I'm not going to lie. I face imposter syndrome.
Yes.
A lot. So at the beginning of my computer science career, we were 60 people and only 5 women. So for me, it was very weird that I feel like I don't belong. But then you have to, I don't know, you have to believe that you are capable of doing what you want. Because during my career, I received a lot of comments, like, for example, why do you like math, or why do you like programming? Like, this kind of comments that make you feel that you are not belonging. But at the end, what I already said is like you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in to have reference that makes you believe. And also when I when I also, because I am from South America, the intersectionality, like that you are a woman and you are from, for example, from not developed country. Like, also there are few people from my country in academia compared to other radios of countries. So yeah, it's like it's a process. It's been a process, but at the, and now I believe that I belong here. But it's a process that you have to face.
100% it is a process. Thank you very much, Cristina. I wanted to ask you all the same question, but I wanted to throw the question directly to Hind, since I think also your perspective, since Cristina mentioned everything about the comparison with her home country and everything, and your vision in being having your nationality, having also lived in Lebanon for so long. Do you relate to what Cristina has shared?
So I think I have a bit of a weird take again, is that I felt isolated in Lebanon in ways that I did not feel isolated in Belgium, and vice versa. So I think my sense of belonging is problematic to begin with. I feel more belonging in science because I personally feel close to what is being asked of me. However, in terms of social belonging, I feel like it has always been an issue. And if you consider science, I think that imposter syndrome is a big thing. And I think when you're in science, you're kind of excluded from literally everywhere else because nobody understands what you do. Science is, we want to think that it's a very rational club of people, but it's not. It's also tainted by a lot of like social hierarchies. And when you're a woman and from a migration background, you're kind of excluded from everything else. But it also really depends on where you are. So I think you really have like a very varied spectrum. I think I was very lucky in the sense that I am in a country of which I share the culture. So I have kind of a certain level of high ground, or I can mask enough to fit in. So it's really not a yes/no question, kind of. I feel like I'm a scientist now, but I feel like my identity as a scientist is one thing that I have to kind of deal with, and everything else can have an impact or not, depending on the specific situations. I think it's quite difficult, but very clearly, I'm one of the lucky ones because I haven't had to fight for a certain degree of acceptance.
Right. Right, but these kind of nuanced also experiences are super interesting as well. Like trying to find your place within science and society as a separate thing and something that you have to struggle in a different way, or that you can feel more belonging within your group or your research group or your topic. It's super interesting.
I think science for me is extremely welcoming because we have the same kind of curiosity.
Yes.
There is really that aspect of curiosity, which in Lebanon I could not find. I mean, when you have a country that has had to go through wars and civil wars and whatever, curiosity is not a thing that you can afford. You can kind of, you know, and this is what has drawn me to science, despite all of the things that kind of make it really difficult to fit in.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, 100%. Rahele, the same question for you, actually, and also given your take, since you're also here in Belgium.
Yeah, for me, I've been always in STEM. So I come from engineering. So yeah, this is something that, okay, I feel that I belong to this. But one thing which is I see as a pity is that, yeah, I worked here at university. So in Belgium, we have less and less women in STEM, especially in engineering. When I was supervising exam during my career at University of Antwerp, my faculty was applied engineering. So you can imagine, it was very obvious and sad to me that from a class of 50 students, you could count only 2, 3, maximum 5 female students. I come from a country in Middle East. I come from Iran, and this is not something that I could face there. So in Iran, we were half-half. In some, let's say, major, for example, for computer science, especially more women than men. Yeah, I can say that for mechanical engineering, yeah, that's true. Because at the end, you couldn't really find a job if you are a mechanical engineer and a woman. Couldn't find, but yeah, it was difficult, let's say. But in Belgium, yeah, we really face these things. And now I want to relate it to BeWiSe, that I'm happy that with BeWiSe, we are very active in promoting STEM, especially for secondary school students. We organize yearly Girls Leading in Science contest. That there is a competition between the students in teams that if any of those teams win the contest, then the prize is the first year tuition fee if they go for STEM. And this is something that I'm proud of, actually.
Yes, Hin, go ahead.
Just wanted to comment that I think it's very interesting that you say that in Iran it was a 50-50 split. But I wanted to comment on the fact that this is something I've noticed in like engineering, physics. You have a majority of men, at least in Belgium. Whereas, for example, in biology, bioengineering, pharmacy, things like that, you have a majority of women. And in my field in immunology, you have a majority of women when you start, and that is another problem. And when you end up in higher leadership positions, all of the women are gone. So there are really like different stages at which we start to lose women.
100%. Yes, Rahele, go ahead.
Yes, one comment on Hind. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree that then we have this leaky pipeline things that when we start, for example, at PhD master, okay, at PhD there is also, let's say, not half, but yeah, it's okay. And then when it goes to postdoc, it goes down. When it goes to professorship, yeah, it goes down. And then when it's for the faculty leaders and so on, then it's 0, let's say. So yeah, this is also sad.
Oh yeah, 100%. Thank you very much also for the comment, because that is also something that we need to speak about, and not only the differences between the people that have the decision, take the decision to start a career, and how it depends on whether it's more on engineering or something related to care, and try to see how to contribute to the caring of society, and also the leaking pipeline, as you said. I want to recuperate something that you mentioned, Rahele, and hear from Hansika in this case, because you mentioned that being in BeWiSe also helps you with a sense of belonging and this kind of feeling together. And I wanted to throw the question, what is something that helps you feel like you belong within your research group, your university, in the country, whatever that helps within, like in these terms of the conversation? And starting with Hansika.
Yeah, well, in my case, now that I'm doing my PhD in a very female-dominant field, because I'm coming from educational sciences, and there it's like very female-dominant in that sense. But then again, we do have males, just to give you a perspective on that. But as a non-Finnish speaker, I say like that. It's really difficult to make friends with Finns because they're very quiet and shy and very, introverts. If we have to define them in one word, but once you get to know them, they are very close. They can be very supportive of what you do. So in that sense, I'm very fortunate to have a really supportive colleagues in my team. And when I started my PhD, I was always I was nervous and anxious whether I'd find the right set of people to continue this journey, because doing a PhD alone is not so easy. You just need your support system. But luckily, I found my support system within the faculty. But then again, to have broader connections or to go beyond my support group, it's a bit hard. because it's difficult to connect with Finnish people, because sometimes our interests wouldn't match, and then I don't know how to approach them because they're very direct and they just stay on the point and that's it. No small talk, no nothing. So it has been challenging in that sense to network with people outside my network. So yeah, but then again, if you integrate well, and you don't have to speak the language in this scenario, because everybody speaks English and it's a common language when we communicate with each other usually. So it's, in that sense, it's been comfortable to use the language and then just have friends and then to talk to many others. But then again, to have stronger and deeper connections with people who are not in my network, it has been difficult, and I'm still exploring how to go beyond that and connect with right people in my industry.
Thank you so much, Hatsika. You have touched upon also one of the questions that we have in the chat, but I will come back into that about the language. But I wanted to throw the same questions to Christina and whoever wants to go first, if there is something specific that helps you feel more that you belong within the groups with your different perspectives that you have shown before.
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of the other way around. Like when I'm in Belgium, I'm fully Belgian, which means that I forget about everything else, which is an interesting thing that I didn't think I would have coming here. Because being Lebanese, and particularly in these situations where we have yet another war going on, is something that a lot of people of my age in my kind of environment resent. Because it's a kind of a burden that you carry with you always, and it's always been a problem since you've been born, and it's not going anywhere. So it's a very, like, it's a mix of thinking that something that has caused you so much pain for so long can just be forgotten. You go abroad and then you're gone. But actually, no, it's your childhood, it's all of the memories that you've had, and even if you have a tremendous amount of painful memories associated to that, everything else is still there. So you have to kind of compose with it. And this is what I've struggled with in Belgium. Of course, when I do my job, it kind of doesn't come in. But this is kind of some questioning that has occurred because I'm in this position. And I'm not like such a classical migrant. I'm kind of like an in-between person, whatever I do.
Right. Yeah, it makes all the sense. Christina, do you have any take on this or with your particular case?
Okay, in my particular case, for field that I belong, is that have a support network, the people that are doing the same as you. For example, during my PhD, I have a Venezuelan friend that she also were doing her PhD. So for me, she was like, okay, we are two migrant people doing this, so we can do it. So yeah, yes, and also to participate in workshop or conference that they address this kind of intersectionality between research and Latin people, in my case, and Latin, or in the case of women. So fortunately, in my field, in computer vision, they are taking care of this. They are open spaces to talk about this, to present our work as a women, as a migrant, as a minority, also for queer people. Also in the biggest conference, they are doing this kind of workshop, and it's very good because you also know people that, okay, it's in the same situations. So this kind of situation made me feel okay. I belong, and I'm not the only one. So
that's amazing as well, and that is also one of the motives that we wanted to create these kind of conversations as well, just also to raise the topic and create this kind of sense of community as well. And so thank you, Christina. I mentioned before that Hansika had touched upon one of the questions that we have on the chat, which is related to language. So Elisa has asked, Have you faced any language barrier in your work, like a conference, presentations, connected with colleagues? 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗏, you have mentioned before about connecting with colleagues and how English is a safe language in this case, but also it's not the same language as having the personal relationship with the people. I wanted to ask the same for the people in Belgium, and starting with Rahele, because here in Belgium, for those people that don't, that are seeing us from another country, we have 3 official languages. Mainly it's French and Dutch. Well, the Flemish dialect of Dutch, which is a little bit different, and we have a German community as well. And here in Brussels, we have the 2 languages, but it's mainly French. We have the 2 communities separated like in territories. So you may have French universities speaking university, or work in a Flemish speaking community, and not necessarily people are bilingual. There are some people that make the effort to learn the 2 languages, but it's not something inherited. So we have a little bit of language community going on, not only with English as an academic and vehicular language. So Rahele, how has it been for you?
Yeah, okay. So I moved to Belgium, and the plan was I gonna live in Brussels. So I studied French beforehand in Iran for 6 months. Okay, good. I could communicate a bit. And then I came in Belgium. So one story. Then I moved to Antwerp. Okay, completely different. I couldn't understand anything. And then, yeah, all the letters, yeah, was something connected to each other, and I couldn't understand nothing. That's one thing. The other thing, according to the university and so on, I joined the opening day at VUB University. So this is the opening day. So everyone are new. So yeah, we are, yeah, most of us are PhD students from different countries. Okay, they welcome us, and the event was in Dutch. Okay, what can I do now? Yeah, these are the things. So yeah, I actually accepted these things, and then I came to Antwerp. Our faculty meetings at University of Antwerp are in Dutch. And yeah, you are part of the faculty. You join the meeting, but you don't know the language. So yeah, this is something which hurt people, I think. And then but yeah, I would need to say that I heard that it, for example, for the faculty meeting, it needs to be in Dutch based on the regulation. That's what I heard. So maybe they cannot do anything about it. Yep.
Yeah, I was very interested to hear your take, because again, I'm Belgian, so very privileged in that sense. However, I'm French speaking. And because I was in Lebanon for 15 years, I obviously did not learn Dutch, not because I did not want to, but because I was learning Arabic at the same time, which is a considerably more difficult language than Dutch to learn. And so when I got catapulted to KU Leuven, I realized that, first of all, I was grateful that the environment was international enough because I could speak English. However, in environments where you have a majority of Dutch-speaking people, it is very difficult to actually get integrated. There is a certain level of kind of administrative procedures that require you to have official documents in Dutch, etc., etc. However, most of the communications are done in English. I also have the chance that if an email is entirely in Dutch, I will simply not consider that it concerns me, because there is a certain level of effort made for like the international character of KU Leuven. So they try to kind of include people and have enough communications in English. So I'm like, okay, if they have done it for the majority of their communications, then they can do it for all. I'm not concerned if it's in Dutch. But what I find really interesting is that I should not, like, I'm Belgian. And yet I have felt the same level of kind of isolation from Dutch-speaking people than you probably have felt. And I'm really sorry that you had to study French in order not to use it afterwards. But yeah, I think the Flemish are also quite particular. But I also have to say that if you had been in the French-speaking community, you would have also had problems. Maybe people would have been warmer. which is also kind of part of the cultural shock that I've gone through going to Flanders. But they would have switched to French eventually, which, yeah, I think is... so I'm also curious to know how it is in Finland, and if really English works, or if you really struggle eventually. And also, Christina, considering that you normally speak the language, even though you're in Barcelona, so...
Yes, I wanted to comment that because I'm coming from Colombia. There is a Spanish-speaking country, so I moved to Spain. That also is Spanish, but I particularly moved to Barcelona. That in Barcelona people speak not only Spanish, but they speak Catalan. They are very similar languages in pronunciation and grammar, but they are different languages. So at the beginning, when I was in my master, most of my colleagues were Catalan, and the research group where I was doing my PhD also, they were Catalan. So at the beginning, it was very confused. I mean, there was this language barrier because when most of the people speak in one language, they naturally speak in that language. So at the beginning, I didn't understand anything of Catalan. But now I do. Now I understand. I speak Catalan, but at the beginning it was very difficult. So it was, even though I'm in Spain, but people here speak Catalan, so it was a barrier. And when they sometimes give it to you instruction in Catalan, I was to take the Google Translator and see, okay, what are they doing? So that's the way I learned Catalan. And also for me in conference, in English for me it's also complicated to speak, especially when I do a presentation. It's not that natural, so I had to make the rehearsal several times in order to get the pronunciation well. So and I was all my career I was studying Spanish, so also to do the research dissemination, to write my papers, so the English was an extra effort for me to do.
So if I can continue
Yes.
with this question. So like he pointed out, it's easy when it's an informal setting, but whenever it's a formal setting, it can be difficult, it can be challenging. But then again, in the university, it's English is a much preferred language, but then the faculty meetings and some local events would be happening only in Finnish. And then Swedish is another official language in Finland, so they can be either in Finnish or Swedish. But then they always try to have these events in 3 of the languages, Finnish, Swedish, and English. But sometimes when it's difficult, they at least try to give a summary in each of these languages if it's in Finnish. But then there are some local events and local conferences that are happening only in Finnish. And sometimes it's a pity because sometimes they could be really relevant to my study or my interest area of research, but then I wouldn't be able to attend. I could attend, but then I wouldn't understand a thing. That's the problem. So there's always this dilemma when you live as an immigrant who's not speaking the language in that country. It's your effort. You should put some effort in learning the language, but also it's Finnish is a real difficult language, and I've been learning it, but then again, I'm not up to a level where I can do my academic work in Finnish. So that there's always that gap that I won't be able to fill in. And also with data collections, because in my field, we go to schools and collect data from young kids, adolescents, and so and so. And I would never be a part of this procedure, even though I want to get this hands-on experience, because I don't speak the language, unfortunately. Yeah.
There is an additional mental load that we have to take care of because of this. I wanted to ask how much support you get to learn the language, because I know that in Flanders, at least, the universities, I don't know how it is in Antwerp, but I know that compared to French-speaking universities, they have kind of like a Dutch curriculum that either you can have easy access to as a student, or I know that if you're faculty, you get help to learn
Yes.
Dutch. So I wonder how it was in Finland.
Well, we do have courses that are available for us, and we can take those for free, but it's encouraged, but it's not mandatory. And when your friend groups, they speak very fluent English, you just don't have the need to go beyond and learn the language. But like, it's my responsibility that I learn the language and at least try to stay connected with the language. So that's why
And
I'm taking some courses, but not everybody does that.
if you were to become faculty in Finland, would you have an obligation to speak one of the the national languages to a certain level?
Yeah, there's that barrier. You can never be a university lecturer if you don't speak Finnish or Swedish, especially Finnish, to at least C1 or C2 level. So yeah.
Same in Belgium.
Thank you so much for this thorough conversation that, may I say, we're having in English as a very core language, which is also a mental load of learning English and not taking into account that this is not our mother tongue. So this is something also to add. And but thank you very much. We have another question in the chat. Before going into that, just let you know that we're going to go a little bit longer of the initial 1 hour. So if anybody wants to leave a question and if you cannot stay until the end, that's not a problem, because since this is recorded, the question is going to be answered either way. But we have another question from Anissa Zuzav that says, do you ever feel pressure to succeed not only for yourself, but also because others see you as a role model? I don't know who wants to go first, but I think it's also a very relevant question, also taking into account what we have talked about, whether you are the first one in your family that have been studying these kind of studies, or going, like, how to explain what is a PhD, for example, or not only that, but also succeeding in another country, and in general, how do you see this? And whoever wants to go first, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can go first.
Great.
Yes, I feel the pressure. Yes. Because, for example, in my family, I am the first one to get a PhD. So at the beginning, my family didn't know what is a PhD or what is this for. Or so yeah, so I feel this pressure, and then I realized that in my community in Colombia, in my neighborhood, there are people who say, "Oh, you are so a pride for the community," or and they speak to other girls like younger than me, that, "Oh, see this girl, she studied, she traveled, she did all." So yeah, I feel I feel the pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to add up on if you feel ever any pressure being a role model?
Yeah, so because of my position, I was still the odd one out always. So I was always either an example or like an example of something that you would never be because of a variety of things. However, I don't feel a pressure to be a role model, but I feel pressure to succeed because I'm far from my family and I'm the only kind of support that they have. So there is tremendous amount of pressure because I'm the one who is supposed to kind of be the most stable or at least have the most opportunities. And at the same time, I thought it was a good idea to go into academic research, which is not the most like money-making environment and not the easiest one to thrive in. So there is a pressure, but not for exactly those reasons.
Yeah, and I actually can relate to that as well as a migrant in another country, although it's not the same situation coming from Spain. But yeah, like living your country and make a career and try to make the most out of it, and feel the pressure of why you have chosen this path and have to justify it all the time. It's also something that I can relate to. Let's move on to another question that I hadn't noted, which is more related to the barriers that was presented at the very beginning of this webinar that were presented in our previous webinar related to structural barriers. So this is more related to those who hold a visa in order to continue to study and to work and research. So the question is, have you faced any kind of constraints regarding your visa status or your immigrant status, like for example, trying to travel to conferences, to the stability of long-term career making, things like that? Have you experienced anything related to this? And Christina, you can go ahead. I think you have your mic off. Yes.
Okay, yes, for studying the master, I had to gather a lot of documents and also to get the budget and to show my bank accounts to the embassy, Spain embassy, to say, okay, I got the documents, I got the money, so I can study. So, but it was a long process from applying to the university and then to get the visa. And in one moment I had to like to ask to the university, please, can you send these documents the physical documents to my home, because the embassy is asking me for this. And then when I finished my master, I didn't have any visa to work permission. So also again, it was a very long process to get that work permission in Spain. And during my PhD, my work permission expired, but I was in the process to get the citizenship of Spain. So now I'm Spanish because I got the citizenship. But I spent like 3 months in a limbo because I didn't have the work permission. I was in my process to get a citizenship, so I couldn't receive my salary from the scholarship because they need to get the paperwork in 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏. So I mean, it was very hard to all this process, but at the end, I get the Spanish citizenship. So, but yeah, it is there are barriers for immigrant people.
Yes, 100%. Yes, Rahele.
Yes. So yeah, all the paperwork I also had. Another difficulties for me was attending conferences. So yeah, I had a story about that in 2022, my paper was accepted for Models conference in Montreal. Models is the top and big conference in modeling and simulation, which is my expertise from my PhD. You can imagine I read a lot of papers and heard about top researchers in this field. I met some of them online, and my paper had been accepted for this conference. And I really wanted to be there, present my work, meet those top researchers, but visa. I started applying for the visa. I needed to go to Den Haag in Netherlands because there is no WFS center in Belgium for applying for Canadian visa. Okay, that's understandable. I went there, I submitted my request, I came back to Belgium. All our group were ready to attend the conference. They asked me from time to time, Rahele, any news from your visa? No. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, nothing. They were all Belgian. They weren't familiar with these things. They needed to apply only online, and then, yeah, that's all. They all booked tickets, they reserved the accommodations, and still waiting for me. I started contacting the embassy. I contacted the Canadian embassy in Belgium. They told me that they are not in charge of visa. I need to contact the embassy in Paris. Okay, I contacted them for many times, no answer. I sent about 10 emails, no news. I called them more than 5 times, no helpful answer. I also booked a flight because I wanted to go with the team and I had to present my work. Yeah, no news for about 3 months. I canceled the flight. The team were gone and I was still waiting in Belgium for my visa. The day before my presentation, they sent me an email at 3 p.m. from Paris that my visa is ready and they work until 5 p.m. And they told me, we can mail your passport, so you will have it some days later, about a week, probably after the conference. The other option, you can come and pick up your visa. We work until 5 p.m. Okay. The day after was my presentation, and I was in Antwerp, and I had 2 hours to reach Paris. No way, that's not possible. My supervisor attended the conference and presented my work. Yeah, the day after in the morning, I went to Paris. I picked up my passport, came back to Belgium. In the evening, I had the flight to Canada because I really wanted to attend the conference. I made it at the end, but I couldn't present my work. Yeah, this is really sad. You see, it's from 4 years ago almost, but it still hurts me when I'm thinking about it.
I'm going to restrain my opinions as I'm just the moderator of this story, but wow, just this is exactly one of the constraints that were listed as one sentence in the presentation every time that we have to present all the barriers and all the obstacles that this kind of visa struggles affect, how they affect. But this is why we also wanted to have this kind of conversation on how directly, like not only visa constraints, no, there are stories behind, there are opportunities missed, and there are frustrations and time lost and efforts made. So
Yeah, indeed.
yeah, so thank you very much, Raheli, for sharing that story. I wanted to also insight a little bit more on the missed opportunities and also networking opportunities that are missed because of visa constraints and any other type of constraints that you may have as well. We were talking about language before, so that I think that it also includes in this. Have you feel that you have missed networking opportunities and opportunities to create a community because of these kind of things?
Yeah, maybe I can add one more thing.
Yes.
Yes, of course. From that time, I avoid any conferences in any country with difficult visa possibilities. Yeah. For example, in US or any other countries which is difficult to get a visa, I just avoid them.
Of course. Which is something that other people that hold a nationality don't have to think about even. But yeah. We're continuing a little bit more. If you have any other questions on the chat, please drop it. And I know that people need to leave so early. So as I said before, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat and then we will answer it. I had some other questions and something that we have mentioned before about working career and transitioning, and also related to this kind of constraint. So I wanted to ask the limitations and obstacles that you have faced to transition from being a student in, depending on your case, as a PhD, or doing your master, which is a different legal situation, towards a professional career without this kind of nationality. Hansika, can we start with you?
Yeah, so when I gave my introduction, I said that I had a bit of a gap between my master's and my PhD. That's because I could not land on a job for 2 years straight. Not 2 years, let's say 1.5 years, because immediately when I graduated from my master's, I got into a marketing trainee position at the University of Oulu, which I was lucky to do. And then after that, it was really difficult for me to find a job. I was in this in between position where to find a permanent job in the industry or to continue my studies doing my PhD. So I was applying for jobs, and I was writing to supervisors in different universities. And then if I heard from any of these supervisors, which was a rare case, it would be something kind of negative, or or they're looking for Finnish speaking researchers, because they want people out in the field to collect data and analyze those data. So I could not do that. So I missed such opportunities because of the language barrier again. And also I've heard that when you apply for jobs, it's a very negative thing in Finland that's happening. It's like a glass ceiling effect. It's like when you send your CV, if they see that your surname is something different to a classic Finnish name, you would be rejected then and there. You wouldn't even go to a second round, even though you speak quite good Finnish and you are a Finnish citizen legally, and you born and raised here. If your surname was different, there would be this kind of obstacles to go forward.
Just to put a word on it, that's racism. But
yeah. So I've heard such stories when I was sharing my experiences, my frustration with my fellow colleagues and my friends. So and at the moment, Finland has the highest unemployment rate in Europe, unfortunately, and it's going to be even more difficult when I graduate from my PhD. And I'm already anxious about this, and I'm supposed to find an internship as a part of my PhD, and the anxiety has made me postpone this process as much as I could, because I know when I start, I'm going to get rejections over and over. And this kind of negative thoughts, even though I haven't faced it yet, makes me very anxious and in a way less confident in what I do.
Of course, that takes a mental health toll on this to be, like everything that is related to this kind of transition and being able to develop your career is also going to take a toll on this. To continue with this conversation as well, but taking a little bit turn, because we had kind of a question from one of the people attending. Jana Nova wanted to hear about your thoughts regarding institutional measures to be in place to assist you in smooth landing in the academia and foreign country as well, which is something that I wanted to cover as well. If you have any thoughts on institutional measures that could be put in place, or any policy developments that you have experienced that could help or hamper this kind of barriers and putting more stones on the way. If you have any thoughts, please, floor is yours.
I think academically, anything that makes the process longer makes it more difficult, because, like, I'm European, I have to go work in France now, theoretically, in June. I've been waiting for the contract for 3 months. Can you imagine if I had any sort of family considerations, visa considerations, what are they thinking about? This is already ridiculous for somebody who has to move within the EU, but for somebody who has additional constraints, these kind of lengthy processes just make it completely impossible, as Rahele pointed out. So I really think that academically, institutions need to do better in terms of their admin procedures, and then I will let others kind of chip in. But I just wanted to say that I'm very upset ever since Rahele shared her story, and that 𝗂𝗂𝗂 situation made me even more upset. So
yes, maybe I can add one as a hurdle in academic. That's completely true. Also, if you want to find a job in Belgium, if everything is okay, but they need to apply for a work permit, and work permit takes time, about 3 months. As Christina also said, they cannot pay you. Everything is okay, but they cannot pay you because you don't have a work permit. Yeah, something like that. But I want to turn it in a way that there is also good points. So in Belgium, about 3 or 4 years ago, yeah, because a lot of people around me, they face these things. That if you were a student or researcher and the contract ended, or yeah, they finished their study, they had to leave Belgium immediately, without any, yeah, 1 day more, or yeah, nothing. But these days, there's a nice regulation that there is this possibility of staying in Belgium as a job seeker under, they call it orientation year, for searching for a job for 1 year period. This is something that has been added recently. Yeah, recently 2 years ago.
I'd like to add to that from the Finnish perspective, because in Finland it took a turn, because in Finland it was really easy to get your visa right after you finish your studies for 1 year or 2 years, depending on how long you wanted it. But then recently they limited it to 3 months. So if you cannot find a job within 3 months, you have to leave the country. And it's 6 months for specialists and EU blue collar card holders or something like that. So right now people are really struggling to find jobs. It might take years to find a job or land on a job, but then if the visa expires within these 3 months, they just have to leave the country. And Finland needs international talent to sustain.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing very different views on the national policies and how something can help and something cannot help. I'm going to move on to a couple questions that we have on the chat, so then we have time to answer them. Mariam, is it? Yes, Maria, sorry. So Mary had asked, have you ever faced prejudice, bias, or discriminatory comment in the workplace, particularly from people in senior positions? Because as we said before, there is a pipeline leakage, and there is a huge difference between the people that decide to start a career in STEM in general or in STEAM, and the people that are seniors and hold a senior position or are higher in the ladder or the hierarchy. And if yes, I would be very interested to hear how you dealt with these situations and what helped you navigate them professionally and personally. So whoever has any thoughts on this, I will let you go ahead. Yes, Cristina.
Yes, unfortunately, in my case, I received discriminatory bias comments. First, because my country is very stereotype about negative things. Some jokes that is a joke, but it's, for me, it's not like, oh, you are from Colombia, you bring this, blah, blah, blah. And I don't like that, even though it's a joke. But for me, it's like a discriminatory comment. Why are you, well, especially from people from the university, like, why are you joking about this? Why are you assuming that if I am from a specific country and do this and do that? Right? So yeah, but I learned to ignore this because what else can I do? Like, and in one conference, it happened something very weird for me, because it was a conference and I started talking with a guy, and I said to him, I'm from Colombia. And he said, oh, what are you doing here? Are you a waiters in the conference? And I was like, what? No, I'm here for the conference because I do computer vision. And don't get me wrong, and I don't I don't think anything about being a waiter, but why are you assuming that I'm not in the conference as an academic, but as a other kind of job? Like, and for me, it was very shocking, this experience.
I'm surprised you're not more angry about this experience, because I'm very angry about this.
Yeah, I was angry, but I was like shocked, like I just received this comment, like I was like.
I also think that being a woman is unfortunate because we have been taught to kind of absorb things, and that you have like kind of righteous offense. It's like, this is not a comment that you should be taking, especially from a man that makes both a sexist and a racist comment at once in a very like high profile environment. This is ridiculous.
And in that day, I just walk away because I was super shocked. I couldn't speak more. Yeah, but
honestly, not surprised about that story, having lived in Spain for so long, and I'm very sorry that happened to you in general. Have you, or any of you, had any similar super sad kind of story? And have you had any mechanism to cope with it?
Being extremely disagreeable is my mechanism to cope with it. It doesn't actually work much because you still feel whatever, but like, I think it's also part of like my journey into feminism and all of these things, is trying to learn first to identify when you've been treated in a like less than ideal way, and then try to find a way to react. Of course, it comes with consequences in the sense that you're seen as somebody who's going to disrupt the order, the social order, oh, but we're only joking. Actually, no, it's not funny. It's always at your expense. This is no longer the type of humor that we should be accepting. And I think even if people look down on us for disrupting these things, I think it's a like noble thing to want to stand up for oneself and our communities, both in terms of gender and in terms of sexual orientation, in terms of culture and whatever. And I think it's very hard to do that.
Thank you so much, because I feel like this is not a take that it's often spoken about out loud, at least. It's something that crosses our minds very generally. But as you said, we are socialized to have this kind of responses, or more how to calm the water so that there's no conflict, instead of making sure that the other person knows that they started the conflict in this case. So thank you so much for that take. I'm going to share with you one last question, and I think with that we can wrap it up. Carla Cadena del Castillo from the chat asks, do you think there is a persistent bias where immigrant women are assumed to be trailing spouses even in high skills roles? And have you ever experienced this, and what impact does it have? It is something that have you lived or witnessed within your community or your research groups?
I have not, but I think it's more of a personality situation. So I'm not surprised if somebody else would have experienced that, but I personally have not faced that.
I'm very happy to hear that, honestly. And I also think that also depends on the personal experience of everybody, because depending on the family situation that you're in, depending of the not both nuclear family, whether married, not having children or not, and also the expectations of your family, whether you have them close or you have them far away, and what kind of responsibility they take on you, depending on these kind of things. And maybe you can fit in more in these kind of roles, even though you have this role in academia or not. So very glad to hear that you haven't experienced it. So I think that is a wrap. Thank you.
Just wanted to say,
oh, yes, go ahead.
It's great that I haven't experienced it, but that we can't experience all of the bad things in the world at once.
Yes.
So
yes. With the bare minimum, not to be a martyr in every single situation. that you can be. So yeah, at least that is it. That is true. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining today. This is the fourth webinar that we are hosting in the Coffee STEM webinar series. We are also planning 2 more webinars, one on gender and entrepreneurship in collaboration with the BeWiSe project, another project that is working on this. And so we want to finish the series with a webinar on gender equality plans. So if you want to know more about the dates at the moment that they get scheduled, do you want to participate as a speaker or as a guest, or do you want to contribute to this kind of conversation, don't hesitate to join us on the National Inspiration Hub. And we are looking forward to see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much, 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗲, Christina, Hansinka, for being here today. Your insights have been really important and really helpful for this conversation. So we really appreciate you being here.